Hello, I'm the Casual Collector, and I'm going to talk to you briefly about these figures here. These are 1/6 scale representations of Macvsog recon men and Billy Waugh, the recon company sergeant major at the end of the war in 1971 and 1972. These figures all represent individuals who served with Task Force 1 Advisory Element, which is what CCN became after 5th Group left Vietnam. And all of them are a pretty decent representation of the gear and equipment that was used at the end of the war as operations were winding down. So, first thing you'll notice is that you have extremely heavy loads of ammunition and a lot of 40 Mike, a lot of ammunition for the RPD, 1,000 rounds, and a lot of 5.56, including first widespread use of 30-round magazines for the Car 15. There's also substantial uniform modifications, extra pockets sewn on, zippered pockets, and a particular note is Frank Pulley's uniform, which has additional pockets sewn to the front, the back, the legs, and zippered pockets on the midsection, similar to the zippered pockets on the midsection of Bargewell's uniform. You also note the beginning of name tapes displaying allergies and blood type, and in some cases a bit of dark humor, fuck you, and I'm dead. That was a CCN practice according to Mike Tucker, and I believe he sourced that from Tiltmeyer. Other things to note is taping up of the boots around the ankles or blousing in order to keep out leeches for the recon men. You'll note the use of the new stable rigs along with padding to help make the rather uncomfortable rig a little bit easier to use. You also note the use of the XM28 gas mask pouches. These were only particularly useful against CS and riot control agents, which teams used heavily to break contact. You'll also note the use of the indigenous rucksacks and some use of the tropical ruck, which would eventually become the predecessor for, which would be the predecessor for the LC1 and LC2 rucksacks. You also see that Sinton is carrying a radio, Prick 25, with the handset jammed in the front to make it easy to access in the event of having to use the radio. Fun fact for Billy Waugh here, so those subdued insignia are actually old credit cards that have just been carved up into shape. And the documentation he's got is an actual SOG report detailing status of teams, and the ID is actual CCN identification as well. The gear is as accurate as I could get, thanks to the lovely books from Jason Hardy, and where possible, I was able to try to talk to veterans regarding the equipment they used. In this particular instance, the only one I was able to get a hold of was Nick Brokhausen. He was extremely invaluable, very, very happy to talk with me. Great guy. For Pulley, Sinton, Bargewell, Bowra. I had to use the photo references. And in Bargewell's case, I actually didn't have much knowledge of what he used for the equipment. I had to kind of conjecture, but a photo surfaced recently of him with this very heavy rig, just loaded with canteen, 2-quart canteen covers, each of those carrying a RPD drum, which they loaded with an extra heavy 125 rounds. But he was using this very heavy setup combined with Brokhausen's helmet. Thank you to Mr. Brokhausen for correcting me on that. I thought it was an M1 initially. I didn't notice the flaring that he had on when he was wearing it. But showed him very loaded for bear, probably for a bright light. And I decided to go with that kit because I liked the look out of it. It was very unique and very, very heavy. But carrying 1,000 rounds, as Mr. Brokhausen said, was not unusual, in addition to all the additional 40 millimeter and grenades. Just by the end of the war, things were bad enough that you needed that much ammunition, and you'd usually shoot your way through a lot of it. You also saw the start of ERDL camouflage. Saw very, very limited use at the very bare end of the war, but there are photos of some recon men across the fence, including Pulley, wearing those. So I went with it. I thought it was an interesting look. For the most part, this kind of spray paint camouflage look with the OG 107s, the jungle fatigues, is kind of what you saw. Got here on Brokhausen, also a little bit on Bargewell, and you can kind of see it a little bit better with the shadows. Blended in very well with the jungle, but it's a little bit subtle here in person. Subtle on camera, excuse me. It's a little bit more visible in person. But these were a lot of fun to put together. I like being able to do the research to try to get everything right, and I hope you enjoyed seeing these. Thank you, and God bless.